Good morning. Welcome to this lecture. My name is Dikuma Nasser. I have more than 10 years experience in writing research article. In today's lecture, I will share my experience on how to write the scientific research article. I will discuss how to formulate the idea and evaluate it, and what happened after the evaluation if the idea is not good and what to do. I will discuss how to make a writing plan, to make the structure of the paper, and then submit it to the manuscript to the journal. Then I will talk about the evaluation criteria for the manuscript, and also some reason the manuscript can be accepted or rejected. So in the field of research, the key concept is about the idea and the audience. When you talk about the idea, it is about the novelty. What is the novelty of the idea? And what is the audience you are targeting? If you're targeting someone who have at the university level, so you should think how to structure your work and the information you're going to provide. Let's talk about start by idea. So to get the idea, so you have to start from the broad area. So you think about the big area. So identify your area of interest, especially it is the field that attracts you. And then, what the big question you are going to tackle in that area. For example, you are interested in 5G. 5G is very big, 5G network is very big area. Then what you are going to do in 5G? Maybe you need to bring the 5G in a rural area. So what are the challenge to bring the 5G network to the rural area? So to get your idea, you have to think about your background, your expertise, and the project you have enjoyed. For example, if you have already worked on Internet of Things or artificial intelligence, that could be foundation for your area. And also you have to align your area with the long-term goals, such as you want to be expertise in a field, or you are targeting the specific job market or the specific industry. So depends on your target. This is your area of interest. Once you identify your area of interest, then you go to the research review of your area of interest. So of course, in the research review, you have to look up the recent paper, recent publication. This is where you see what is have already recently done and what are the challenge. In other words, what are the gaps exist in the literature. After identify the gap, you have to think how you can address those gaps and all those challenges and what you can bring. So this is now we call it that I was talking about the novelty. What you can bring as the novelty to overcome those challenges. Then once you identify the challenges, then you have to define your problem. If, for example, the energy efficiency, you want to address the energy efficiency, you have to, in the rural area, especially by providing 5G, you have to think about what the problem people face in the rural area to get the 5G network. Then you have to consider about the new approach. For example, if you're working in the field of computer engineering or networking, you have to think about how to include the artificial intelligence, how to include edge computing, how to include the blockchain, and so on. So you have to think about the cutting edge technology that can bring the novelty to the area. Then after that, you formulate your research question, you define your objective, then you define the hypothesis. Once all are defined, so you have to think the feasibility. Your idea is feasible. Maybe you need a data set. Data sets are available. Maybe you need some tools. Those tools are available. If those tools are available, you have also to think about the manageability in terms of the time and also in terms of the resources. If you find you do not have enough resources or you do not have enough tools, then you go back, you improve your problem so that you can reduce the number of the resources you need. So this is, I call that as redefine your idea. So once your idea is well defined, then you decide to go to the methodology, how you are going to address your research problem, which technique you are going to use. After defining the technique and you are going to use to address those challenges you have already identified, then you have to evaluate your idea. So to evaluating your idea, you have to think about the baseline approach. I have this idea, and this idea I have to compare with those different ideas. So then you have to define the metrics. Then from the metrics, from the baseline, you can see your idea is good or is not good or is fair. So then you can judge your idea. If your idea is good, then you go ahead. If it is not good, then what to do? So if your idea is not good, then you check your idea. Maybe the problem is the scope is too large, change the scope. Maybe the methodology is not feasible, you change the methodology. So then you can also get the feedback from your supervisor or your colleagues so that you can improve. So normally when you talk about the research, it's about the collaboration. You exchange the idea with your supervisor, you exchange the idea with your colleagues so that you can improve. Then after getting the feedback, you needed to go back to define your problem. Then you explore the research area. Then you see the new, you check again the emerging technology you can put so to bring the new idea. Then try the new methodology because you change the idea. Now when the idea change or the scope change, maybe you need another methodology. Then you evaluate now the tool and the resources you need to use. Of course, you needed to think about the real world constraint, especially when you're taking, for example, the industry. And also you have to think about what is the application scenario or use cases. So that which is very relevant to your audience. Then, of course, you have to redefine again your hypothesis, your objective. Then you evaluate your idea. You can learn a small scale experiment so that you can see if your idea is good, some improvement than the previous one. Then you iterate until you get the good results, until your problem is well defined. If your problem is well defined, if the results good, so now you can I give you an example. Imagine you are trying to use the AI to optimize energy consumption in your IoT healthcare system. You realize that in the real area, you do not have the data set. So what you can do, so you can reframe your problem. So you focus on energy efficient communication protocol, or that can shift from the AI-based method to optimize the base method. After when you reframe your idea is good, everything's fine. Then you can go to the develop a writing plan. So to develop a writing plan, very important. You have to think about what you are going to write from the reader points of view. List the idea that you want to put, and then you group those ideas into the category. When I talk about the category, you have to, when you write, you have the, what you call it, you have the title, you have the introduction, you have the title, you have the abstract, you have the introduction, you have the result, and you have also some subtitle. So those things you have to decide at that moment. So this is an example. So you have to think about the reader. Then you have to decide the purpose of your writing, identify the main points you are going to put in a research article, and also the information to include. Then you have to organize your work, I mean, on terms of the section, subsection, and then you do the quick writing. So it is like you have the skeleton of your work, then you go inside, start writing, putting the information, make the first draft very fast. Then you revise again, edit, then finally you go what you call proofreading and correct. So who is your reader? That is the key important. So is the public who read your work, what they already know depends on educational level, depends on our industry. So you have to think about the reader of your work and how the reader will use your information. So that's why methodology is very important. The method you use is very important, so that the reader, they can know how to use the information you provide in your manuscript. Before going to the public, the other reader was requirement bar must be fulfilled before going to the public. Those are the journal editor and the reviewers are very important, and you need to satisfy them so that they can allow your manuscript to go to the public. So who are the journal editor and the reviewer? So we can think them as the gatekeeper. Are those people who have to ensure that your work meets the standards and the requirement so that your work can be published. Otherwise, if it doesn't meet the requirement and the standard, your work cannot go in public. So they have to follow some structure. So this is an example, should have the abstract, introduction, material, method, sometimes we call it methodology, and the result, and then the discussion. So let's talk about I will go in details each part. So in the introduction, the result, you have already evaluated the idea, you know, the idea is good, then the baseline, then how you write. So your work to depend on the result you have. So you begin the introduction by discussing your area of interest in general. Then at point number 3 is the way you put your contribution, your focus, your scope, why you are writing, your scope, your scope. Then the point 2, it is like it is linked the point number 1 and point number 3 is the way you put the rated work, what I have done by others in your interests, and what the challenge, the gap you have identified, which I have not addressed. And the point 3, how you address the gaps. Then you go to the point number C, where you discuss about the methodology used to address those challenge. Then after you discuss the result, then you have the result, then you make the discussion. So there are some format. This is, you have start by introduction, you start by abstract, you go to the introduction, the result, sometimes you go to the discussion and the methods after, or you can have the abstract, introduction, methodology, result, discussion, then you go to the conclusion. So when you talk about the title have to be very important. The important part where you communicate with the reader. If the abstract is good, if the title is good, so the reviewer who evaluated your paper and also the disciplinary community, they want to read your publication. But if your title is not good, sometimes they just see the title is not interesting, they just continue. So I give an example, attention is all you need, which is published in the neural information processing system. They have that number of destination from the Google Scholar. So to provide relevant information, they are concise, avoid the ambiguity, non-phrase statement, and questions. So when you talk about the abstract is like the summary of your work. So it is only the part the reader take a look and decide to continue or to stop. So that's why it should have the background information, small background information, the purpose of study and the scope, the methodology you use, the result you get, and the conclusion in one paragraph. In one paragraph. So, which is very, sometimes we call it the standalone paragraph. So once you read the abstract, you have just overview. Then you can decide to continue to read the manuscript. So then the introduction. The introduction is very important. Most of the paper they get rejected because of the introduction. So the introduction have to be well written. Start from the background information in general. Then you end up to the specific by showing your contribution, what you are contributing, why your study is very important. So most of the time, the editor and the reviewer, they just take a look on the introduction to see the following, to see if they can address the following questions. Is the contribution is new? Is it the contribution is significant? Is it the contribution suitable for publication and the journal? So by reading the introduction, your introduction should answer all those three questions. If they didn't answer, sometimes the paper they do not accept it. So they should answer that question by reading the introduction. They should have answer of all those questions. Then the method. The method is about to establish the credibility of your result. And also to reproduce your result. So they should follow the method they use so that they can reproduce the result. That's how they establish the credibility of your work. Then after you have to go to the results. Normally when we talk about the results, to turning the data into the knowledge. So how you are going to present the result? You are going to use the table, you are going to use the figure. So pay attention about the table and the figure. depends on the type of the information you're planning. For example, if you are recording the data or process the data, you can use the table. But if you are going to show the overall trend, overall picture, to give the picture, of course, you have to think about x-axis, y-axis, and you have to put all the labels and the legend so that people, they can understand very well the figure. So why all those things? Why to publish? Of course, to leave records of research so that other they can use, and also to receive recognition of your idea and your results, and also to attract the interest from the others in your research area, and also to receive the feedback from the experts. And sometimes we focus on our lab, but when we send our work, so we get the feedback from the expert because the reviewer are the expert in the field. So we get the reviewer from we get the feedback from the reviewer. Sometimes people say, "Oh, publication is too difficult." Yeah, that is true because not all idea is new. So the novelty is key. Before submitting your idea, you have to check the literature to see if there is some work which has met your work, what I bring if it is new. Then you get the result. You have to think, if I have the result and someone else have this result, my result is better than the existing one. So if the result is good, it's very easy to publish. Of course, without forgetting that some journal have the specific requirement which is difficult to meet. Once you complete all the process, the next step is to submit your manuscript. So when you submit it, it's like you are going now you're in a competition because other people also submit their own manuscripts. So then the reviewer, they have to decide which one to publish. So that's why it's very important because you have to select carefully the journal you're going to submit. So that's why you have to think if the journal published the work you've done. In other words, if your work meet with the scope of the journal. If it doesn't meet the scope of the journal, normally the editor, they reject the paper immediately after submission, maybe after some weeks or 1 month, you get the feedback that your paper doesn't meet the scope of the journal. Sometimes they recommend you to submit it to another journal, reject, then submit it to another journal. How about if you decide to submit it to a specific journal? How about the citation of the paper published in that journal? So you have to think about it. And the publication time or processing time for the journal is different. Is it the journal published quickly or take time? So those information have to be there. You have to think also about in terms of the cost. Is it publication is free or you have to pay? And also have to think about the editorial staff. Sometimes the journal, they put the editorial team. If you are very known expert in the field, maybe you get interested something to that journal. So there are some questions from the reviewer. I have already sampled some questions. The reviewer, they ask, is it the contribution is new? Is it the contribution is significant? Is it suitable for publication in journal? Is it the organization of the journal, the manuscript is acceptable? Does the method or the results are scientifically acceptable or follow some standards. Are conclusion based on data presented? Is it the length of the paper is satisfactory? Or the illustration or the figure are necessary or table are necessary? So those information the reviewer they ask before taking the decision either to accept your manuscript, either to reject it or to give major or minor revision. So I put some reason for rejection and some recommendation. Normal rejection is not the end, it's like a redirection. Sometimes you get the rejection, then you revise your manuscripts based on the reviewer comment, because when you they reject your paper, they tell you why they reject your work. So from the reviewer comments, you can improve your paper, then it is submitted to another journal. So if your paper doesn't fit in the scope of the journal, immediately you get the feedback that your paper doesn't fit, they reject it, then you can submit it to another journal, or you can revise to meet the scope of the journal, then submit it to the journal. Or if there are some flaw in the science, so you may review a paper and address the comment, then you submit the best part to the journal. The language and the structure of the manuscript is poor, so the editor may have make the decision to ask you to revise and submit the journal or to submit it to another journal. So this is some references. So if you have a question or comment, your question or comment are welcome. Thank you so much.